On today's episode of PDubs Arcade Loft, we're going to take a look at the Arcade1Up Atari Legacy Cabinet. Out of the 4 Legacy cabinets released by Arcade1Up, is this the best one yet? As you saw in the highlight reel, this cabinet is a looker. Arcade1Up hit a home run with mirroring the original shape and design and artwork of the Tempest cabinet. This cabinet will look great as an end cap on your Arcade1Up collection. When it comes to the riser actually matching the arcade cabinet and everything flowing perfectly, this is what they need to do on every cabinet moving forward. I've said it 100 times. If there is a cabinet to honor the tradition of Atari and the legacy of Atari, this is the one by Arcade1Up. Although Arcade1Up light-up marquees are fairly cheap and not as good as aftermarket marquees, I think folks are going to be happy with how the marquee looks on this Tempest cabinet. Looks great. When it comes to the bezels surrounding the 17-inch Bowie monitor, I do like the simple design here. Atari logo up top, Arcade1Up logo on bottom. That's all you need. The cabinet does come with stereo speakers, 12 games, 17-inch color screen, custom riser, light-up marquee, printed coin door kickplate, custom-shaped cabinet design, weighs about 80 pounds, real-feel arcade controls, coinless operation, adjustable toggle volume switch, all the goodies. I'm 5'11", and when it comes to line of sight, no issues. The screen is slanted further back than what we normally see on Arcade1Up cabinets. The slant is perfect, and also when it comes to height of the cabinet is just as tall, if not about, it looks to be about a half-inch taller than some of the normal Arcade1Ups like the Marvel vs. Capcom cabinet. So I'm happy to report there are no viewing angle concerns with this cabinet. I can see everything happening on the screen. Although the cabinet looks good and is also designed pretty well, we do have our typical quirks with Arcade1Up, such as we have those cheaper arcade buttons that they use that you might want to trade out. They do the job, but they're not superior in any way. And when it comes to the trackball, although the trackball is a weird, like, dirty white color, like, why is this trackball not plain white? That's my main concern, right? Why is that trackball not plain white? It's like this dirty ivory yellow. It's not that pretty. Looks like, you know, it's been played with a million times. Maybe that's what they're going with. But it has a nice sound to it. It definitely spins freely. The buttons are below average, the trackball is okay, but when it comes to the spinner, it's definitely not a free spinning spinner. They might say it is, but as you can see, when you spin it, it might rotate maybe 1.5 turns before it comes to a complete stop. It's definitely not clicky or as bad as the original Generation 1 Asteroid spinner, but it's definitely not fantastic. We're definitely going to want to put Glenn's Retro Show spinner in this thing. When it comes to the game lineup, you have some of the best Atari games of all time: Asteroid, Centipede, Major Havoc, Missile Command, Aka-R, Crystal Castles, Tempest, Millipede, Gravitar, Liberator, Asteroids Deluxe, and Space Duel. In my opinion, I think we could have sacrificed Aka-R or Space Duel and left Lunar Lander on here. Unfortunately, Lunar Lander was removed, but then again, it's nice to have a little change in pace. I can understand Arcade1Up kind of switching out a few games compared to that original Atari cabinet they made many eons ago, so it's nice to have something a little different on this one. Now, when it comes to the cabinet options and features, Arcade1Up did a couple of interesting things here. So no smoothing effects, none of those horrible smoothing filters that we've seen on a lot of their Pac-Man cabinets and later generation cabinets. All the pixels are nice and sharp. Thanks so much for keeping those filters off. Greatly appreciate it. When it comes to the volume slider, you'll notice that when I adjusted the volume slider, when you're on the main menu, the volume level will display on the screen. However, if you're inside of a game and you adjust the volume, you'll hear the volume adjust upwards or downwards, but the actual volume level does not display on a screen while you're in-game. Interesting miss there. However, when you're on the main menu and you hit the Player 2 Start button on any game, you can hop in and adjust these dip switch settings. Absolutely love that Arcade1Up continues to provide these on these newer generation wave cabinets. This is what we need to see on everything. No matter what game you're on, you can adjust the lives, bonus lives, scoring thresholds, as well as your difficulty. Can you remap controls? No, you cannot. But it's still really cool that you can adjust it for all 12 games. Now, I'm not going to show you all the different options for all 12 games. This video would be way too long. So if you do get this cabinet, trust me, there's plenty of options on every single game, mostly in regards to how many lives you start off with and what the difficulty level is. And of course, you can go down to the bottom where it says reset to defaults and flip everything back to the defaults. But you can set these options up for the kids or for novice players. Now, out of all 12 games included on this cabinet, the one game here that, to me, is a hot mess is Missile Command when it comes to the layout of the buttons. Obviously, as you'll notice here, Alpha, Delta, Omega, mirrored on both sides, but basically you're probably going to be playing on the right-hand side versus the left-hand side, considering the awkward position of the buttons on the left-hand side for firing your weapons at the incoming bombs and ships. As you can see here, we don't have the appropriate setup to play Missile Command. I think Arcade1Up found a way to make it work, but honestly, it was very uncomfortable for me to play. I think with time you can get used to it, but then again, it's just the one game on the cabinet that's a miss. So in all honesty, although I said earlier a different couple of games, now that I think about it again in my voiceover here, probably would be better to have left Missile Command off and put Lunar Lander on here, if that was the case, if they couldn't give us the best Missile Command experience possible. But that's just my personal opinion. When it comes to comfort level, I can see the screen. Again, no issues, no line of sight issues. And even though the controls are deep inside of the actual cabinet, as you can see here, everything is inside the cabinet. I'm not finding any comfort issues or anything like that. All the games and access to the spinner and trackball and buttons, no issues. I'm able to get to those controls and it don't feel awkward or weird or anything like that. These Atari games have been around for generations, and I have a feeling most folks who end up viewing this review video have probably played these games in the past. So when it comes to games like Asteroids Deluxe, a lot of these games, I think a lot of you guys know how these games play, what these games are. I think going through every single game on this particular review video is going to be kind of tough and make this longer than what it needs to be. However, what I can tell you, again, of course, is they're just Atari games, and they play like Atari games, and they're a ton of fun if you like these kind of games. The only other quirk that I think might bother some folks is that we have a mixture of horizontal and vertical games on a horizontal screen. This is going to bother some folks in particular. Me, it doesn't actually bother me, and that's probably because I play a ton of multicades, so I'm very, very used to playing some vertical games on a vertical screen, some vertical games on a horizontal screen. As long as the gameplay experience is really good, it usually doesn't bother me too much. But a nice perk I wanted to show here compared to the original Arcade1Up Atari cabinet is your high scores will save. And considering the pretty decent quality of the Bowie monitor as well as lack of smoothing filters applied, I'm pretty happy with how the games look on this cabinet. The funniest thing, of course, is your Marquee game here, Tempest, which is typically on a vertical screen. Here we are on a horizontal monitor, but it doesn't look bad in my opinion. Is it unplayable? No. You could definitely play this, and it looks fine. I mean, I'm so used to playing Tempest on horizontal multicades that honestly, it just doesn't bother me at all, but it is going to bother some folks, as well as a few other of the mix and match games that are on here. So I totally understand that feedback if that's important to you, but in my opinion, all the games look fine, play fine. The only real big concern for me on this cabinet is the quality of the spinner. The spinner is nowhere near as bad as that Wave 1 asteroid spinner. You guys remember that thing, that clicky thing that barely moved? If you try to do like a big free spin, just whip the spinner, well, guess what's going to happen? It's only going to go around about a half a turn around the map area before it comes to a stop. Again, because the spinner will only freely rotate about 1.5 turns before it comes to a stop. So it's nowhere near as good as something like what we've seen from our aftermarket companies, such as Glenn's Retro Show. So I think applying a true free spinning spinner like the GRS spinner is going to be absolutely necessary for this cabinet, because the stock spinner is just not great. I feel people tune into my channel and watch my reviews because they want to hear my honest opinions on whether or not I like something and whether or not I would recommend it. When it comes to this Atari Legacy Cabinet, I would 100% yes, recommend purchasing this cabinet. I believe out of all 4 Legacy cabinets that have been released from Arcade1Up, even though I haven't owned them all, but from everything I've seen from all of them, I feel that this is the best one out of the bunch. Great selection of Atari games, tons of replay value, and so much fun. Would definitely recommend you guys pick this cabinet up. I'm going to do a live stream gaming session over on the Super Game Room Dudes YouTube channel. Link is in the video description below. Make sure you guys check that out. We now have a new channel for our Super Game Room Dudes podcast show. I'll be doing that this weekend so we can show you guys some extended gameplay of all 12 games included on the cabinet. A lot of folks tune into my channel because I think they want to hear me say, they want my opinions. Would I say yes? Would I say no? Would I recommend a cabinet, etc.? Things of that nature. When it comes to the Atari Legacy Cabinet, I absolutely 100% would recommend this cabinet. I think this is the best cabinet that Legacy cabinet that Arcade1Up has done. Super fun, great selection of games. Again, a couple of quirks with the menu toggle control, a mixture of horizontal and vertical games, if that bothers you, and of course the spinner is definitely going to need replaced. I think the buttons and the trackball, those can be replaced as well by user preference, but I do feel you need to replace your spinner. Minus that, I think it's a pretty dang good cabinet. Job well done by Arcade1Up. I'm definitely going to give this one a positive review and a definite recommendation. If you enjoyed the review, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up on the way out. Make sure you check out the new Super Game Room Dudes YouTube channel, link in the video description below. Follow us over there. And as always, when it comes to hanging out upstairs with us and being over here on my main channel, just got one thing to say to you guys. Hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for hanging out upstairs with us, and thank you for subscribing.